From the Presidential Palace, Manila, Dateline Malacañang.
Good day. Radio Pilipinas World Service can also be heard on shortwave broadcast through the shortwave facilities of the United States Agency for Global Media or Voice of America on the following shortwave frequencies: 15.640 MHz, 17.750 MHz, and 21.720 MHz. I'm your host, Leo Magpayo, and this is Dateline Malacañang.
Dateline Malacañang.
Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. on Thursday announced the adoption of key outcome documents as the Association of Southeast Asian Nations or ASEAN-Russia Commemorative Summit wrapped up in Kazan, setting the direction for the next phase of ASEAN-Russia cooperation. Among the documents endorsed were the Kazan Declaration 2026, the ASEAN-Russia Comprehensive Plan of Action 2026 to 2030, and joint statements with concept papers on cultural cooperation and energy cooperation. President Marcos said these form a comprehensive roadmap that will guide practical collaboration and deliver concrete benefits to the peoples of Southeast Asia and Russia. Speaking alongside Russian President Vladimir Putin at the Kazan Expo, President Marcos, who co-chaired the summit as ASEAN chair, welcomed Moscow's continued support for ASEAN centrality and the ASEAN-led regional architecture. The president said both sides are committed to ensuring that the momentum from the Kazan summit results in meaningful, on-the-ground cooperation. He noted that discussions reaffirmed shared priorities across political security, economic, and socio-cultural pillars. Leaders also tackled efforts to promote peace and stability, boost trade and investment, strengthen food and energy security, advance science and technology partnerships, and expand people-to-people exchanges. President Marcos added that developments in the wider Eurasian region were reviewed, including opportunities for deeper engagement between ASEAN and organizations such as the Shanghai Cooperation Organization and the Eurasian Economic Union. The Philippine president said ASEAN and Russia recognize the potential for expanded cooperation in areas like economic connectivity, agriculture, tourism, energy, and addressing transnational challenges. This year marks 35 years of ASEAN-Russia dialogue relations, with both sides reaffirming their commitment to a constructive and forward-looking partnership.
We noted the growing interaction between ASEAN and these organizations and recognized the potential for enhanced cooperation in areas of mutual interest, including economic connectivity, trade and investment, energy, agriculture, tourism, and addressing transnational challenges. We likewise welcome the adoption of several important outcome documents that will guide the next phase of ASEAN-Russia relations. These include the Kazan Declaration 2026, ASEAN-Russia Unity and Diversity 35 Years Together, the ASEAN-Russia Comprehensive Plan of Action for 2026 to 2030, the Joint Statement and Concept Paper on Cultural Cooperation, and the Joint Statement and Concept Paper on Energy Cooperation. Together, these documents provide a comprehensive roadmap for expanding practical cooperation and delivering tangible results and benefits to our peoples in the years to come. As ASEAN Chair, the Philippines welcomes Russia's continued engagement with ASEAN and its support for ASEAN centrality and the ASEAN-led architecture. We remain committed to ensuring that the momentum generated at the summit translates into concrete outcomes and meaningful cooperation.
Was Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.
Dateline Malacañang.
Meanwhile, Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. outlined the priorities he believes should guide Association of Southeast Asian Nations or ASEAN-Russia cooperation in the years ahead as both sides mark 35 years of dialogue relations. Speaking in Kazan, where he co-chairs the ASEAN-Russia Commemorative Summit with President Vladimir Putin, President Marcos said the partnership is anchored on mutual respect, shared interests, and the conviction that cooperation, not confrontation, is the surest path to peace. The President identified three core priorities for the next phase of engagement: peace, security and stability, a more dynamic economic partnership, and stronger people-to-people ties. On security, President Marcos called for deeper collaboration on maritime security and counterterrorism, stronger defenses against cyber threats, and more proactive regional mechanisms to address illicit trafficking, cybercrime, and online scams. To build a more robust economic partnership, he urged ASEAN and Russia to expand trade opportunities, improve facilitation, deepen investment flows, and strengthen links between business communities. He noted that while economic ties have grown, they remain far from their full potential. The chief executive stressed that food and energy security must be prioritized, describing them as essential foundations for regional stability. He also highlighted the need to support MSMEs and emerging sectors to ensure inclusive growth. On people-to-people cooperation, the President emphasized expanding scholarships, student exchanges, academic partnerships, tourism, and cultural programs, calling these the living core of ASEAN-Russia relations. He said youth must be placed at the center of these initiatives, as they will shape the future of the partnership. ASEAN and Russian leaders also held substantive discussions on regional and global developments, covering peace and stability, trade and investment, food and energy security, science and technology, and cultural and educational exchanges. As ASEAN chair, President Marcos reaffirmed the Philippines' commitment to turning the summit's momentum into concrete outcomes and welcomed Russia's continued support for ASEAN centrality and the ASEAN-led regional framework.
As we mark this milestone, the Philippines would like to highlight three priorities that should animate our cooperation in the years ahead. First, peace, security, and stability. In an era of deepening geopolitical uncertainty, the value of steady political and security engagement between ASEAN and Russia cannot be overstated. Transnational threats such as terrorism, illicit trafficking, cybercrime, and online scams do not respect borders, and neither can our responses. We must strengthen practical cooperation on maritime security and counterterrorism, reinforce our collective resilience in cyberspace, and develop the institutional habits of anticipation rather than mere reaction. Second, a more dynamic economic partnership. Our trade and investment ties have grown, but they have yet to reach full potential. We must be more deliberate and more ambitious in expanding economic opportunities, improving trade facilitation, deepening investment flows, and connecting our business communities. Food and energy security deserve a particular attention, as these are the foundations on which broader stability rests. Our economic cooperation must also be inclusive. Our micro, small, and medium enterprises must have a place in this partnership, and our cooperation must extend into the emerging sectors that will shape tomorrow's global economy. And third, perhaps the most enduring, is our people. Scholarships, student exchanges, academic partnerships, tourism, and the arts. These are not peripheral to our relationship. They are at its living core. The connections forged between our peoples outlast any summit declaration and carry our partnership forward in ways that policy alone cannot do. We must continue to invest in these bonds, placing our youth not merely at the receiving end of this cooperation, but at its center, as the generation that will ultimately decide what ASEAN-Russia relations will become.
That was Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.
Dateline Malacañang.
Meanwhile, on the sidelines of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations or ASEAN-Russia Commemorative Summit in Kazan, President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. joined Russian President Vladimir Putin and fellow ASEAN leaders for a business lunch that turned into a venue for candid, high-level discussions. The informal gathering allowed leaders to exchange views on shared priorities and explore ways to further strengthen ASEAN-Russia cooperation. Conversations touched on economic opportunities, regional stability, energy and food security, and emerging areas of collaboration. For President Marcos, the meeting reinforced ASEAN's commitment to deepening engagement with Russia as both sides mark 35 years of dialogue relations. The business lunch served as a complement to the summit's formal sessions, giving leaders space to align perspectives and build momentum for future cooperation.
Dateline Malacañang.
In other ASEAN news, Philippine Acting Transportation Secretary Giovanni Lopez is calling on investors and development institutions across Association of Southeast Asian Nations or ASEAN to take part in building the Philippines' next generation of mass rail transit systems. Speaking at the ASEAN Rail Conference or RailCon 2026 in Mandaluyong City, Lopez said regional partners can help accelerate major railway projects now underway, including the North-South Commuter Railway, the Metro Manila Subway, and Metro Rail Transit or MRT Line 7. He emphasized that the projects support President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.'s directive to ease the daily burden of commuters by delivering a modern, efficient, and fully integrated rail network. Lopez also highlighted the role of the Philippine Railways Institute, which is tasked with ensuring that the country's rail systems are staffed by competent, safety-focused, and future-ready personnel. At the same event, ASEAN Economic Community Deputy Secretary General Satvinder Singh outlined the region's priorities for advancing railway development, sustainability and resilience, innovation and digital transformation, stronger safety standards, long-term investment, and human resource development. The two-day ASEAN RailCon 2026, running from June 18 to 19, aims to deepen cooperation and technical collaboration among ASEAN member states. The conference focuses on improving railway operations and maintenance, advancing regional technologies, and developing human capital to support a safer, more efficient, and more sustainable ASEAN rail network.
The Philippines reaffirms its commitment to working closely with our ASEAN partners and development institutions in advancing a highly efficient, expansive, and well-integrated rail system that will support sustainable development and improve the lives of our people. With these game-changing projects, we can transform the entire landscape of the Philippine transportation. But to achieve this, we would need help and collaboration from our partners and friends from ASEAN countries. Beyond physical infrastructure, we also recognize a deeper truth, that railways are powered by people. This is where the Philippine Railways Institute, PRI, plays a vital role. As our country's Center for Railway Human Resource Development, PRI ensures that our systems are supported by competent, safety-driven, and future-ready professionals.
As Acting Transportation Secretary Giovanni Lopez.
Dateline Malacañang.
Also on Thursday, the Department of Social Welfare and Development, or DSWD, is welcoming new data showing a slight improvement in the country's food security situation, crediting the Marcos Jr. administration's sustained anti-hunger programs for the positive trend. A 2025 survey by the Department of Science and Technology, or DOST's Food and Nutrition Research Institute, or FNRI, presented at the National Nutrition Summit, found that the share of Filipinos experiencing moderate to severe food insecurity dropped by 33.3% in 2023 to 32.6% in 2025. Despite the improvement, the study noted that 3 in every 10 Filipinos still struggle with food insecurity. DSWD spokesperson Assistant Secretary Irene Dumlao said the findings validate the agency's ongoing efforts. Dumlao added that the department will continue intensifying its interventions. At the center of these efforts is the Walang Gutom program, the government's flagship anti-hunger initiative under President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. The program provides food-poor families with electronic benefit transfer cards loaded with 3,000 pesos in monthly food credits, ensuring access to healthy meals through accredited stores. Beyond hunger relief, the program aims to promote better nutrition and support human capital development, especially for children. The DSWD is also rolling out complementary programs such as the Walang Gutom Kitchen, the Supplementary Feeding Program, the Enhanced Partnership Against Hunger and Poverty, and the Project Lawa at Binhi, which focuses on water access and nutritious food production. Dumlao said these initiatives are designed to be both nutrition-specific and sustainable, creating long-term impact for families nationwide. Food security is also a key priority under the Philippines' chairship of the 2026 Association of Southeast Asian Nations, or ASEAN Socio-Cultural Community, where the DSWD is pushing for regional cooperation on zero hunger strategies. All these efforts, Dumlao emphasized, align with President Marcos's directive for a whole-of-government approach to ensure that no Filipino family goes hungry by 2028.
Dateline Malacañang.
In other developments, the National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council, or NDRRMC, on Thursday reported that the number of deaths under verification from the magnitude 7.8 earthquake that struck Maasim, Sarangani, and nearby provinces has climbed to 78, 10 more than the figure released on June 16th. Of the reported fatalities, 57 were from Soc-Sargen and 21 from the Davao region. The number of missing persons stands at 30, while the tally of injured remains at 1,339. The quake has affected 346,413 families or 1.41 million individuals across 573 barangays or towns in the Zamboanga Peninsula, Davao Region, Soc-Sargen, and the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao or BARM. The NDRRMC stressed that all casualty figures remain subject to verification. Damage to homes has reached 74,667 across the 4 regions. So far, 14 cities and municipalities have declared a state of calamity, 5 in the Davao region and 9 in Soc-Sargen. Authorities continue to assess the full extent of the impact as response and relief operations remain ongoing.
Dateline Malacañang.
The Department of Budget and Management, or DBM, has released an initial 362 million pesos to support the rehabilitation and reconstruction of public facilities damaged by the magnitude 7.8 earthquake that struck parts of Mindanao on June 8th. The DBM said the funding follows President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.'s directive to immediately assist affected communities. The amount will be coursed through the Local Government Support Fund or LGSF and sent directly to local governments in Sarangani, General Santos City, and South Cotabato to speed up repairs of critical infrastructure. Of the total allocation, 100 million goes to General Santos City, 140 million to Sarangani, and 122 million pesos to South Cotabato. The funds will cover repairs of damaged buildings, roads, bridges, and hospitals. Budget Secretary Kim Robert De Leon said, the assistance forms part of the government's broader disaster response and recovery program. He stressed that communities should not have to wait long for help during emergencies and must feel government support immediately. The DBM added that additional funding from the National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Fund and the Quick Response Fund is available to sustain relief, rehabilitation, and reconstruction efforts in quake-hit areas.
Dateline Malacañang.
And news from the Philippine Senate, Senate President Sherwin Gatchalian on Thursday said the Senate is putting weeks of political turmoil behind it and is now refocusing on its core mandate of legislation, oversight, and constitutional duties, including preparations for the impeachment trial of Vice President Sara Duterte. He said the Senate will use the legislative break to advance priority measures identified by the Legislative Executive Development Advisory Council, or LEDAC, while simultaneously completing logistical, security, and procedural preparations for the impeachment trial set for July 6. Committee hearings are expected to proceed in the coming weeks following the election of new chairpersons, vice chairpersons, and members. Gatchalian said the goal is to ensure that once sessions resume, senators can immediately tackle LEDAC bills and other priority measures. He noted that the 19th Congress has only 2 years left, while a bill typically takes up to 2 years to pass. On the impeachment front, Gatchalian said security and logistics planning is already underway. The Senate has met with the Philippine National Police, Armed Forces of the Philippines, Metropolitan Manila Development Authority, Pasay City Government, National Intelligence Coordinating Agency, Bureau of Fire Protection, and other agencies to prepare for the high-profile proceedings. He said space constraints inside the Senate building pose the biggest challenge, with both prosecution and defense teams needing separate rooms for staff, media, witnesses, and documents, while also accommodating senators and the public in an open constitutional process. Weekly security briefings will be held to assess readiness. Gatchalian said the Senate must now restore normal programming while fulfilling its constitutional role as an impeachment court. He added that disagreements on bills are part of the process, but debates must return to the floor and committees.
Dateline Malacañang.
The Philippine National Police, or PNP, says it has not received any formal communication regarding supposed arrest warrants allegedly issued by the International Criminal Court, or ICC, against certain personalities. PNP Chief General Jose Melencio Nartatis Jr. said Thursday, the organization has not been furnished with any official document that would require police action. Nartatis added that the PNP relies on formal processes and verified information, not speculation or social media posts. His statement comes amid a circulating social media post claiming that warrants had already been issued against an incumbent lawmaker and two former police officials. With no official documents transmitted, Nartatis said, the PNP has not issued any special instructions to monitor or track individuals. Instead, all police personnel have been reminded to strictly follow established procedures in line with President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.'s directive through Interior Secretary John Vic Remulla to ensure law enforcement actions remain anchored on the rule of law, due process, and institutional neutrality. Nartatis added that the PNP continues to coordinate with the Department of the Interior and Local Government, Department of Justice, National Bureau of Investigation, and Bureau of Immigration for situational awareness should any formal request arise. He stressed that the PNP remains ready to perform its mandate once legitimate orders and properly transmitted documents are received.
Dateline Malacañang.
In other news, the Department of Migrant Workers, or DMW, has released 13.76 million pesos in livelihood assistance to returning overseas Filipino workers, or OFWs, under the National Reintegration Network, or NRN, according to the agency's latest report. As of June 8th, the DMW said 5,769 former and repatriated OFWs have already benefited from the program. Of this number, 5,013 were former OFWs, while 756 were recently repatriated workers. The department said the initiative follows President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.'s directive to provide full support to OFWs who choose to stay and rebuild their lives in the Philippines. Under the program, returning OFWs who want to start small businesses receive livelihood grants to help them establish sustainable sources of income. The assistance forms part of a broader reintegration effort that includes employment support, skills training, and welfare services. Beneficiaries and their families also undergo entrepreneurship training to prepare them for business management. Meanwhile, OFWs seeking local employment or planning to work abroad again are also given job referrals and other forms of assistance. To date, the DMW has delivered 28,361 services, including job matching, training vouchers, scholarships, and psychosocial support. More than 2,467 OFWs benefited from job matching activities involving 226 local companies and 104 recruitment and manning agencies. The agency also reported that 690 repatriated OFWs received psychosocial and welfare support through the Kalinga post-repatriation orientation seminars. As of May 31st, the DMW and the Technical Education and Skills Development Authority, or TESDA, distributed 837 training vouchers and scholarships to 1,605 domestic workers endorsed for skills upgrading. The department likewise coordinated thousands of local job referrals through partner agencies, including the Department of Labor and Employment, Department of Tourism, Department of Health, Department of Public Works and Highways, and the Department of Education. The DMW said these efforts reflect the government's commitment to ensure that returning OFWs have the tools, opportunities, and support they need to successfully reintegrate into their communities.
Dateline Malacañang.
Meantime, the Department of Migrant Workers, or DMW, has safely rescued 78 overseas Filipino worker or OFW applicants from an accommodation facility in Palanan, Makati City, following the enforcement of Closure Order No. 2 on Thursday. The operation was led by DMW National Capital Region or NCR Regional Director Attorney Falcone Millar, together with the Migrant Workers Protection Division, as part of the government's intensified campaign against illegal recruitment and human trafficking. Initial interviews revealed that the applicants were recruited by Generic International Manpower Incorporated and were promised jobs as domestic workers in various countries in Asia and the Middle East. However, DMW inspectors discovered that the applicants were being housed in an unregistered facility with no clearance permit from the department. Verification also showed that the site was not suitable for accommodation, citing overcrowding, poor ventilation, and unsafe living conditions. The DMW immediately coordinated with the Overseas Workers Welfare Administration, or OWA, to provide the rescued applicants with financial assistance and temporary shelter. The Makati City local government also assisted to ensure a safe and orderly operation. The department stressed that the rescue is part of the Marcos Jr. administration's strengthened efforts to protect Filipinos seeking overseas employment from fraud, abuse, and dangerous recruitment schemes. The DMW continues to urge the public to be vigilant when applying for jobs abroad. Applicants and their families are advised to verify the license of recruitment agencies, job orders, and all related documents with the DMW before paying fees, signing contracts, or proceeding with any recruitment process. The public is also encouraged to immediately report suspicious recruitment activities to the DMW or proper authorities to help safeguard OFWs and aspiring OFWs from illegal recruitment and human trafficking.
Dateline Malacañang.
And finally, the Philippines' quarterly National Simultaneous Earthquake Drill, or NSED, is proving its value, with officials pointing to how school children in Mindanao reacted during the magnitude 7.8 earthquake that struck Sarangani and nearby provinces on June 8th. Office of Civil Defense, or OCD Administrator, Undersecretary Harold Cabreros made the remark as the nation marked the second quarter NSED on Thursday. He noted that despite the chaos, many immediately remembered the basic duck, cover, and hold procedures repeatedly taught through the NSED. Cabrero said Thursday's drill is especially timely, stressing that earthquakes can strike anywhere in the Philippines at any moment. For the past 20 years, he added, the NSED has become a key part of the country's disaster preparedness culture. He reminded the public not to be complacent and to make preparedness a daily habit. Philippine National Police, or PNP Chief General Jose Melencio Nartatis Jr. echoed the call, saying police units nationwide were instructed to actively participate to ensure swift and coordinated response during real emergencies. The second quarter NSED was conducted with member agencies of the National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council, or NDRRMC, which regularly leads nationwide preparedness activities. Cabreros also urged the public to strengthen quake resilience by complying with building codes, improving contingency plans, and enhancing coordination between government and communities. Thursday's drill simulated a powerful earthquake generated by the movement of the West Valley Fault, resulting in a PHIVOX earthquake intensity scale, or PEIS score of 8.
Dateline Malacañang.
Before we conclude our program, Radyo Pilipinas World Service of the Presidential Broadcast Service can be heard over the following shortwave frequencies: 15.640 MHz, 17.750 MHz, and 21.720 MHz. Radyo Pilipinas World Service is also live on audio streaming. Just download eVox PBS receiver on your Google Play Store or the App Store from your Apple phone. You can also visit our Facebook page and YouTube channel. Just type in and search for Radyo Pilipinas World Service. Kindly subscribe, like, and share our post as well. And that concludes this edition of Dateline Malacañang. For Radyo Pilipinas World Service, this is Leo Magpayo. Good day and stay safe.
From the Presidential Palace, Manila, Dateline Malacañang.